Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It has been a very long time since I have been on here. Um Months actually. And it has been a really big year. So I'm going to kind of just take you through some of it. So last year I got a lot of work, and so I was traveling a lot, and which is great, right? Giving presentations, educating people, giving talks, like all of this stuff, super, super important and super great. Um, but during that, I kept like feeling really exhausted and very tired. Hi, Blair Gray. Happy New Year to you too. Um, just really tired. So tried to get that figured out, of course. I think it was like a year and some ago. I had gotten a colonoscopy to try to figure out some of the issues. Didn't show a whole lot. Some polyps, removed it. Like something called diverticulosis. But I was just having the same problem. Exhausted, exhausted, exhausted. Blair, it's been a while since I've been on your life. It's been a while since I've been here. I am guessing maybe 6 months. Um, Right. I think it must have been before my trip to Wisconsin. So I went to Wisconsin last year, and I actually got to meet a viewer. Nate, hello. So I don't know if I've given one past that point. I didn't actually go and look. Um, but I went to Wisconsin, had some great time with my friend who really needed a break. She's just been really going through it. Um, Her grandson has cancer, and so it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Um, and so after that, went back. Then I had a conference in Philly, and so I went to Philly for that. And then afterwards, I decided, or wait, was that? I've had two conferences in Philly. But anyway, doesn't matter. Ended up taking a trip through the East Coast, which was really great. Um, my mom says hello, Nina, if you remember us. I do remember you, actually. I do. Hello. Um, so yeah, I took a trip across the East Coast, and it was so crazy because last year I was able to work and get myself a vehicle. I am now the proud owner of a 2019 Jeep Cherokee. So that helps with outreach and just really getting places. So like there've been some big improvements in life. Um but again, doing all this again while really just feeling run down, exhausted, and tired. Hi, Jesco. Oh, you guys, it's so nice seeing you guys. And I do remember you. And it's, yeah, this is great. I wasn't sure if anybody would actually come on because it's really early in the morning here. It's like 12:48, but it's nice to see you guys. I was hoping I wouldn't have to just talk at myself. um, but anyway, I was doing this trip, and I am one of those people, like I'll put on Google Maps, right? So where I was actually headed was Maine. So I have a very good friend named Donna that live well, Donna and Cheryl, who live in Maine. And so I joined some of their meetings about on ending homelessness over there as well. Um and so they had invited me up, and I thought, what a great opportunity. So I rented a vehicle and turned Google on, of course, to her address, but then said, I'm going to take an extra day. And so just like went off course. I went and saw Ringing Rocks. I went up through all the states, over mountains, well, small mountains, it seemed like, but it was a great time, and I got to see so many beautiful things. Heart is still in the Pacific Northwest, of course. But I got there and I got to Maine, and immediately one of the advocates in Bangor had scheduled an interview. So they swooped me up there to Bangor, and I was interviewed by a television station on, like just encampment sweeps and things like that. So that was a great time. Left out of Boston, came back home. Blair, I remember the very start of your journey. You've come very far. I'm super proud of you. Keep smiling. Thank you. Thank you. Um, and so yeah, I did that, came back, and it's been like touch and go, like doing a lot of stuff. Started up, I I don't know if you remember, but Being was my company before. I now have Uplift Consulting. And it's been super exciting. I've been mentoring other people, educating in circuits that yeah, it's been great. It's been really great. And I'm proud of me too. I think that I'm proud of me for having the self-confidence to keep this journey and the persistence and persevering even through challenges. I think is definitely a skill set that I'm super happy I have. I'm on several boards from everything from chair to co-chair to other things. So yeah, I do a lot of work. However, like like I said, throughout that I'd been really tired, and I'll get to my point on the whole being tired and not feeling well thing. So anyway, I thought that what was going on, because I am in my late 40s, is I thought, oh crap, it's perimenopause. Probably going into menopause, like that's a thing. So I go to my doctor and I was like, well, first I'd gone to a doctor way before she did that, and then it just stopped. I didn't get much care after that. She just told me to take vitamins. I was like, gotcha. So now I'm taking vitamins and continue care. Um, and he said, well, we don't treat women in menopause till a year after their last cycle. And I was like, because I work in a sphere with researchers. I research, like, there's like I looked at him and I said, that's faulty. I don't know where you came up with that or where you learned that, but that's faulty information. That's like previous information. And so I realized I wasn't gonna get any help there. So I thought next bet is my rheumatologist, because I have arthritis. So I go to a specialist who specializes in treating rheumatic and autoimmune disorders. So I talked to her about it and I'm like, could this exhaustion and pain and all of this, like, because there were some days like I was in so much pain, I would just hit the floor on my knees and throw up. Like it was so bad. Um, and she's like, "No, I don't think it's connected." But so she got me into OB within like 2 weeks, right? OB had me in a pelvic MRI in another week. Come to find out, um, so they found adenomyosis, ovarian cysts, endometriosis, which I knew I had already. Like that was diagnosed in my early 20s. So I knew I had that. But basically a whole plethora of issues. And so they scheduled a hysterectomy. So I will be undergoing surgery for a hysterectomy on Thursday. Um, and I'm a little nervous, but I just like keep thinking, like, literally it's it's fine. It'll be all right. Um, my psoriasis arthritis is worse after having corona. That's actually because here's the thing is like any kind of infection like that, whether it be COVID, whether it be RSV, can set off a reaction in the body. And especially for autoimmune conditions, inflammatory conditions, it can set them off. Absolutely. What you are saying is right along with all of the classes and things that I've gone through about specifically COVID and COVID related illnesses afterwards. Because we have to remember, COVID wasn't just death. It was also a mass disabling event. So there's a lot of people that are really, really struggling after these infections. And there's, yeah, some really interesting studies out there on it. At this time, of course, it's so new that these are just newly coming on. And of course, science. I love science, but it builds on itself. So I'm sure there's more things that will be coming out and that we'll know as it gets studied further. However, however, this has been the absolutely most stressful start to a year I have ever experienced. Um, so I'm just going to dive right in. This administration in the United States is a problem. And let me just take you through the absolute emergency meetings I have had over and over and over again. And responses vary. There were even people who responded like, it's okay because like we just have to go through 4 years of it and everything will be no, it's not. No, it's not, okay? Look at Supreme Court decisions, look at how things changed. It's not the same old situation, and I think we can as we go further into this, we can tell. So, there was and while I have done amazingly, right, coming out of homelessness, there's a lot of people that are just coming out, still in there, and that's who I work for. I work for human rights. And I have seen in my work human rights violations going up exponentially, right? And then there was a fund freezing, and they retracted it, but it was terrifying. It was terrifying. I was housed due to housing first. Like, it shocks me that there is so many people that like, housing first doesn't work. Don't listen to me then, because it does, and it has, and it is. So I don't wanna hear it. I literally don't wanna hear it, and I'm venting right now, and so just go with me, but I'm venting because something has to be said. I'm going to say a lot, and frankly, if you are someone who is in line with the kind of destruction of human rights that is going on right now, I'm sure that there's another channel that would suit your needs and you so just, no hard feelings, move on, but I'm going to talk about and I think maybe that's what kind of stunted me is because I need to talk about these things and I'm not going anywhere without talking about them. So coming online and being like this really does open a person to attacks. And I'm already like, I'm sorry, but if you're out there and you're serving people that are vulnerable, you're already under just like an emotional attack every day. So it gets really, really exhausting. So I was a little unsure, but to be honest, like I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. These are the things that I stand by. This is what my work means to me. I gave a presentation the other day, and because it was affiliated with a government agency, my presentation, they took my slide out for equity. And I just was floored. I'm like, you're asking a disabled woman with lived experience to come and present and educate you. But then when I want to talk about the opportunities that were presented to me and how we can be equitable and lift other people up, oh, that's too much. That's wild. And I just like, what? And so our work got probably 10 to 20 times harder. So what we're doing now because of course, like, it was meant to overwhelm everybody, and I think that's where everybody went right away. And I was talking to, some of my colleagues and other advocates, about fear, right? Because during that freezing fund, and the reason I talked about my surgery is because I'm a Medicaid patient. I have Medicaid, and my medications, if I didn't, are around 6,000 plus dollars a month, right? That's without insurance, right? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm on Medicaid. That funding freeze almost made me not access my medications and or my surgery. I almost had to reschedule. If that judge in there was a judge here and judges around a couple other judges. But if they hadn't have done that, if they hadn't have put a stay on that order, I wouldn't be getting my medical care. This is deeply personal. This is an attack, and I don't know how to let people know that when you see a governmental body targeting any part of your population, and they start at the bottom, right? We saw them, and they started with the immigrants, right? Because so I've been running trainings to our, immigrant serving populations on their rights when it comes to ICE, right? And here's the thing, because any kind of, whether it be military, whether it be police officers, ICE, they come in and they learn this from, people who study behavior, human behavior. And so they understand that the shock and awe approach that they talk about is really well suited to get people to comply, even if that by complying, they're giving up their right? And so we have to teach people who work with really vulnerable populations. Okay. These are, women and children. These are people who have been through unimaginable trauma. Okay. Like genocide. And we have to, train them in, okay, if this happens, please teach your vulnerable to not, you're going to be scared. It's okay to be scared, right? We have to talk about fear. And when I said some things about fear, because I said I'm afraid, and I got responses varying from I'm not afraid, be not afraid. Like I don't feel fear. And I just was like listening, and I was like, I got to talk about this more. I need to talk about fear more because I've been scared. I've been terrified. All right. I've had things in my life to where I thought my heart was going to stop. All right. And if you are not scared by the thought of homelessness, then you haven't been homeless long enough out there. Like, it is scary. It is scary. And it's valid to be scared. But I think one of the things that people forget when they deny they have fear, or they deny that they're scared, number one, a lot of it is privilege, right? You don't have to be scared if it's not you being targeted. And that's why I think people should really open up, get to know your whole community, right? Because that gives you an insight into who you need to be scared for and what you can do to help. And that's what I was getting back to, the cornerstone. The cornerstone of courage and bravery is fear. If you don't have fear, what do you have to overcome? You know what I mean? Like it it shocked me that in our spheres there was this bravado and this, playing this because nobody wanted to say the F word. And I think it needs to be addressed because it's okay to be scared and then act, you know, take it in, reassess your position, and move from there. And so that's what we're doing. I decided that, like, for me, they said 2 to 3 issues, but I've got about 4. So 4 that I really concentrate on, and one of those, so I'm gonna delve more. If I'm going to be on here and I'm going to present, I'm gonna be my full self, and my full self is somebody who presents a lot of information about a lot of topics. So I'm gonna do that. I hope you guys are okay, just hanging in for the ride. And Sleepster, I did see your message, and a late happy new year to you too. And I agree. Oh, Outdoor and with Zach, good to see you too. Jess, meds are a part of human rights. They are. They are. And I think that, like the UN Declaration, as a matter of fact, look, by my bedside, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Like that is what I'm about. I believe that everyone in this world, I don't care who you are, what's going on, none of it. None of it. You deserve the things that are necessary to thrive. And I was talking to this official, and I said, so many governments, so many bodies of governing, think about these issues as taking away, right? We're spending money, so it's taking away from us somehow. And I said, I don't understand that line of thinking because an investment into your people is an investment into your economy, right? When you oppress people, like oppression is targeted, it's meant to do something. And I think that's what they don't want to get at is how the oppression benefits them. But And because it's easier to rule a populace governed by fear and governed by anxiety and governed by, lack of knowledge. I don't know if you know this, but like in my work through Healthcare Network for the Homeless, that's a HRSA funded project. And HRSA took down, I'm, gathering information. And HRSA takes down their civil rights, and civil rights, like our civil rights are under attack. So they took down their civil rights, diversity, and other, I don't remember what else was their site. And, housing first, on HUD, like that's under construction. This removal of knowledge is really, really concerning to me. There's so much that's concerning. Um, yeah, I don't care about borders. I don't, not even a little bit give a shit about borders. In the context of be borders being used to, enhance life where, but it doesn't matter. Like human rights abuses are human rights abuses and should not exist. And I don't care what government does it, what nation does it. I don't care. It's wrong. And I am angry, sad, and scared that this administration is obviously proving that that's exactly what they're about and what they want to do. And that's super, super concerning. And yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. So this has been a super stressful year. Um, I'm hoping though that because I had to like cancel two conferences at the end of the year because I was not up to it anymore. Like I just have been feeling very, very like knocked out, tired. Um, the problem is that people are played against each other. Yes, it's like the Machiavelli divide and reign. Do not know the right words in English. Yes, absolutely does. Yes, that is exactly it. So I'm gonna regale you with a little story. When I was experiencing homelessness, one of my campmates was like, I was angry, right? Um, and I came into camp and I was angry at somebody who was um had substance use disorder and who was really high and causing an issue, right? And they had scared me. And so in return, I react in anger and come back to camp and start saying some things that are just not cool, right? Like, why are they getting housing? They're taking away from those of us who aren't using, and blah 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 blah. The things that we say when we're trying to blame someone that we can reach out, right? Because the thing is when we blame those people, and that's my campmate says, she's like, that's exactly what they want from you. And I was like, what? And she's like, for you to hate them, because if you hate them, it takes away from you hating them, right? The leadership from removing these structures that make it so that no one has to experience this. And that's exactly right. And they've done it with people who, substance use disorder. They've done it with people with mental illness. They've done it with people with disabilities. They've done it with the immigrants, and there is nothing like sitting in a room full of people who are sharing their culture, sharing their lives, and knowing that they're in so much danger, and so are their children, and feeling so absolutely helpless. Um, I think I've called my representatives more than ever this year. Um, yeah, I feel very emotional about that. But that's exactly what they're doing. And I started seeing homeless service workers spout some of those things. And I tried to catch it where I could. But I'd start hearing, they're giving the immigrants all of this. They're giving the migrants this, but our people are sleeping on the ground and blah, 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 blah. And they're taking away and they're taking away. And I'm like, and nobody was understanding really the process of appropriations, right? And and of course, let's not forget the fact that, you know, yeah, there's a lot that goes to that. There's, also racism. Like, let's be real. This targeted response to immigrants is targeted towards Black and brown people. And that's just facts. Facts. Um, yeah, it's just watching it and then going, who's next? So you got women, disabled, you know, everybody in the diversity sphere, right? Anybody who would be considered diverse, right? Because the people in charge love their portfolios diversified, right? They understand the benefit of having a financial portfolio that's diversified, but they can't grasp the benefit of a population that's diversified, a workforce that's diversified. That's too much to understand. It's unreal. It's unreal to me. Um, and I guess though it gives me a lot of work to do. Because if anything, I think after of course the fear settled, and when I say fear, I'm not just talking like, oh, I'm so afraid. I'm talking like the fear that comes from knowing that your community, and yes, these people are my community, are under attack. That's fear. I figured it, I know who I am. I know that I'll, because of what I've been through, statistically, I will be vulnerable for my entire life. That's just how it goes. And I understand that. So, of course, there's some fear for myself and like, okay, great. Now I don't get medical treatment. Awesome. Um, but my fear is for the people that are having their doors kicked in. That's who my fear is. Right now, and those that are experiencing homelessness. Um, so there was a decision by the Supreme Court called Grants Pass, and Grants Pass made it legal for cities across the United States to criminalize those that were sleeping on public property, even if there were not enough shelter spaces. So that was a big deal, right? Because for the most part, cities would criminalize if they had enough shelter space and there was overflow, they had enough shelter space for people to go. This ruling made it so that that doesn't matter. They can criminalize as they wish. It's been People have died. Like one guy got ran over by a truck because they decided they were going to clean up an encampment with him sleeping inside. There was a woman that was pregnant and got ticketed in labor, waiting for an ambulance because she did not get up off the mattress in time. Just a horrific human rights violations. Um, and so, and part of my job is doom scrolling, right? Finding all this information out and bringing it to the light so other advocates and myself can work on it and speak out against and it usually happens, you'll see it in areas, right? And areas will set precedent for the rest of the country. So we really have to watch for those. So San Diego is trying and had I think it's a bill introduced that not only would it make it a crime, they call it an illegal encampment. I love how they use the word illegal too. Like people are illegal. Illegal encampment. It's people experiencing homelessness, right? Like, and they decided to live together for safety, for companionship, for community, which we all need. And that's a cornerstone of being able to, be safe and be okay. But anyhow, they are now saying they want to pass this bill or pass this law that would make it a crime. It's a misdemeanor, which, but whatever, crime, a misdemeanor, punishable for $1,000 fine or up to 6 months in jail if you aid, abet, or anything. So if you help those people, say you go and distribute food, say you distribute clothes, say that you say, I'm not going to tell the authorities where that encampment is, you are now a criminal. And I'm like, oh, paint me a criminal, because absolutely not. I guess like we're just criminalizing just humanity. Like being a compassionate, empathetic human is going to be criminalized. And that's just, it's wild to me. Just wild. Like, what is happening? Um, let's see. I'm going to address comments right now. Jessica, we have elections in 2 weeks. The real problems aren't named and discussed, but there's so much talking about migration. Absolutely mind blowing. Yeah. And And that's the thing. And here's another thing, like, right? So in school, we all learned about the Great Migration, right? Which is why humans live all over the places that we do. It's really a human quality to, if conditions become untenable, to move. We do it. And our country, the United States of America, makes conditions untenable in a lot of places. We lead to the catastrophic effects and then get shocked and clutch our pearls when people move. And I think that I want us as humanity to understand that we are responsible for each other in our world, and the impacts that we do go long, long. And I think we found that out with COVID, right? Something as simple as touching a railing could kill somebody. So that tells us our impact goes much farther than just the world we visualize, see, and exist in right in the moment, right? It goes into other people's lives. That has effects that are much deeper, right? Because some of those people that died had families, some of them were parents, some of them have children who now are scarred, right? Like these impacts, and that's something that simple. Imagine what else it causes all of these impacts. And so the intersections are really big. Heartbreaking the work you do, the awareness you raise. It's very Jason one. It's very important work. Thanks for do. Thank you. I truly believe it is important if it fuels me. I am beyond passionate because I have a very deep understanding of the way it actually works when it comes to vulnerability. And I have delved into the information and made it my hyperfixation. So I'm well versed. Um, and so some of my presentations last year, just so you know, one of my first ones was on contaminants and homelessness, the intersection. So what we do in the United States, if you look up the Shriver Center on Poverty, they had a report come out called Poisonous Homes. And in that report, they found that about 70% of all publicly assisted housing is located, or federally assisted housing is located within 1 mile of some of our most contaminated sites. Then also, when we do tiny home villages and things like that, or have encampments, we push people into the most contaminated areas. And there's some really big health impacts because of that. And so we gave a presentation to the Washington Department of Ecology. And I've been working on the contaminants projects for about 3 years, 4 years. And so that was a really important one. The next one I gave was on traumatic brain injury and neurological illnesses. And that one was to give, like, a perspective from somebody who had to go through it, and just kind of give some education to providers about what that looks like, how they can incorporate, uh, traumatic brain injury informed care, neurologically informed care, some easy cognitive things to do, not to go with the how about you write it in a little book with a population that really has no way to hang on to things, right? And that also takes some executive functioning. So really explaining those things. So that was my next one. And then the one after that, think was that my storytelling one? I think the next one. No, the next one was Shelter app. So I did some Shelter app is, if you didn't know, I am the co-founder of Shelter app, which is an app that lists resources for those experiencing homelessness and unstably housed so that they can find what they need quickly, and in the area that they are. So it's a national, we're hoping to go international. And oh, by the way, if you want to help with data validation, we're always looking for volunteers. But I went to kind of just give people an idea of our product and how it helps, and do that. And so that was two of my conferences. One was in, oh, and then I went to one in Orlando. Crazily enough, I thought if I went to Orlando, I would definitely like go to Disney World. And honestly, it just kind of lost its shine. It was so expensive, number 1. Like, it was, like, 200 and some dollars for, like, a half day, and I'm like, or yeah, something like that, I don't remember, but it was enough to where I was like, "Eh." So, I went on a I found, like, a Ferris wheel, and I just went on that, and, like, because also, again, not feeling well, so when I travel, I just am, like, wiped out, and so the most I can do is just, like, be present for the things that I'm trying to do, right? Um, and then, of course, DC, always an important trip for me. And that's where, of course, I go and meet with, senators and representatives and all of that. Yeah, to ask them, plead with them, beg them for enough money for us to save some more lives. Because the truth of the matter is, like, and it's so funny to me too, because people are like, it's the housing first model. It's like, wait a second, hold up. You cannot tell me that, like, housing isn't the answer. Now, do we need medical care too? Yeah, absolutely. Like, but the medical care doesn't work without housing. It's just the way it is. So, housing has to be a component of it, like, period. That's what housing first actually is. Um, but you'll hear this, and I'm just like, and they're like, and homelessness is rising. I'm like, yeah, rents are rising. Inflation is rising. Climate change is wiping out communities. Like, let's be real here. Like, take a look around. There are more factors than one or two. These things have multiple intersections, and you do yourself a disservice by just focusing on one thing to the detriment of all the others, right? Because this is an interconnected world. So do thing on one thing and another thing is affected. Um, are not named. Hostile architecture is a thing. Absolutely, it is. It absolutely is. Seattle has placed ugly rocks all over the place. Anywhere that there was like a green space that somebody could possibly set up a tent and sleep, rocks. And I'm just like, I, I get that it is hard for people to see it. I get it. Um, but it's really hard to live it, right? And I can't imagine, like, living my life and looking at people who are suffering and then blame them. Like, it's like coming upon somebody with like a compound fracture to the leg and being like, "Oh, you could just stand on the other one." What? It's just wild to me. But I think that's one of the things is I think people there is a large amount of what's called compassion fatigue. So when people are going out and they're seeing this all the time, you can only the human body will only let you feel bad for spans, right? So even during long periods of abuse, right? When I was being significantly like when I was abused when I was a child, even in that it becomes you become desensitized to the amount of abuse. And so it has to go above a certain level to make you feel again terrified or upset or whatever because at a certain point you just dissociate you're just not there anymore. And I think that that's where we're at with seeing people suffering as I think that it becomes a part of life, it becomes normal. And I think it's also normalized to put that negative feeling onto it makes more of an impact to put it on those that are suffering than it does like a governmental body and a society that hasn't made the appropriate changes to take care of its people because that feels very helpless because that is a lot of work, like literally I do it for a career, like it's a lot of work and the average person doesn't have that much time, they don't have that amount of time that they can devote, people are struggling. And so I think there's just a lot of people who want to do something so badly about this problem. But when they do, it becomes, again, about the systems of capitalism that we have been creating. And you can't solve these problems with a capitalist mindset because capitalism caused these problems. Um, and the way capitalism changes our minds, our way of business, our ways of community with each other. For example, our our mayor just, started referring off and on to our community members as customers of Seattle. I'm not a customer of Seattle. Like, I'm a community member. I'm a citizen. But that's how those little changes happen, you know? Because it starts changing in the mind. Talking about it's halfway to doing it. Um, PJT, hi. So lovely to see you. Hope you are doing well. I am doing all right. I'm a little nervous about surgery, but I like literally I think it'll go fine. I've had actually in my early before I was 20, I had lots of surgeries, so I know I can get through it. I'm just nervous. But I have also a huge community that's like banded together around me. My friend Vicky, she got like this like website thing going. So people have sent me like meal cards and like people got frozen meals for me. Like it's good. It's good. I'm surrounded by love. And I don't think anybody could wish for, a whole lot more is to be safe, stable, and surrounded by love. And I am. And I am so thankful for that. How can I be contacted? I do have an email address. Um, I am going to type it in. Um, you can pick your customers, but not the community members. Yep, right? Yeah, and I just, so I'm not a huge fan of that, but there have been good things that happen too. But I also do make it a point that when the administration does something good, I do, call it out and point it out. One thing that they did that was really great was pair up with the Seattle Public School System and Talkspace, which is an app for mental health. And all Seattle youth and young adults up to age, I think 24, might be 25, but I think it's 24, have free access to mental health um, sessions and therapist if they would like. So they have access 24/7 on their phone all the time, and it's free for them. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. I love that and had to call that out for it. Like, that was a positive. Um, but anyway, that's kind of what's been going on in my life. And where I hope to be going is, of course, I love my work. It's hard work. I guess it's not well, physically it is just because of the like emotional, but it's hard work. Because when hear hard work, when I say hard work, I immediately am like, thinking of like a physically hard job. And I'm like, oh, it's not hard. It's like, it is hard though. It gets emotionally draining. It's hard to, you know, completely like sense the signs when I'm getting burnt out and know to take a step back so I don't get desensitized to the trauma, right? And to look at things objectively, do the research. Like it's difficult, but I love it, right? Like it is something that I am doing what I love. And I still paint and yeah, I still do photography. So I like have all of those things like in my life. So my goal this year outside of work is I found the perfect home. Like, and I took my first time home buyer course and credits up. So I just have a little more things to put together, and it's been on the market for like almost a year. So I'm hoping it stays on the market a little longer. And so I will keep you all posted about that, but that is hopefully on my checklist here for soon. So things are going really, really well. I appreciate you guys all joining me. Yeah, I was when I started, I was like, "Oh, I didn't think anybody would join," because it's been so long since I've been on, and the longer it got, the more I was just like, "Oh, I don't know what I would say," and it just feels natural again, so I wanna thank you all for that. Um Okay, I'll contact you. I wish to discuss a project I have that offers support to rough sleepers. Yeah, absolutely. Based in UK. That's great. Yeah, and yeah, so we do some international work too. So definitely contact me. Yeah, and for anybody, if you are running a nonprofit or you have some mutual aid or things going on that you want me to have a shout out or, give you just, a couple quick thoughts on, let me know and you can contact me at the email address above. All right, Jessica, bye. And you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on where you are. And I am going to get going too, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I appreciate you all. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but I feel supported and yeah, thank you. All right, bye.